and it just keeps happening
All right, Joe
through
Biden.
civilizations.
I wish you had a Sour Patch doll and you could just pick it up and sniff it real quick.
They have audio.
Audio on who? Never mind, it's working. Yeah.
All of it now.
Oh, what up, Ketchup? What up? Thanks for hitting the chat.
Thank you, Ketchup. Ketchup's one of the honest ones. We're going to start over.
No, he said it's working.
It's working now. They got the intro music, but they didn't get any of our conversation.
So, no.
Till just right now?
Till right now. So this is the start of the show. Welcome to week 3.
That's fine.
That was awkward.
It was a warm-up.
That's fine. Take 2.
Don't fuck up again, though.
They got all the mannerisms and stuff. So you were saying introduce the show, the overarching theme.
Hang on. Alex Jones. All right, go.
No. God.
No, not on Alex Jones. Yeah. Now introduce the theme.
The name of the episode is War on Civilization, and what is meant by that is that I think there is a suppression of knowledge of what really happened in our history, and we're being taught and indoctrinated into a certain history, and I'm going to be generous and say that it's probably like a 14-year window that we grew up believing that our modern technology and our civilization started.
What's the 14-year window? What do you mean?
I don't want to get too specifically. That's based on biblical stuff. That's based on just general knowledge growing up whenever civilization kind of sparked. So I think of Sumerians, right?
You thought it popped up in 14 years?
I think as agriculture as a technology first got introduced to the population around 14,000 BC.
Oh, okay.
That was kind
of CE. It's like 9 to 10,000.
I'm not saying that's what I believe
right?
now. I'm just saying like that's kind of the prevailing belief growing up that was.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to clarify. Like, are you saying 14,000 BC is when agriculture and cities and languages started proliferating? Because I was under the impression it was like 7 to 10,000 years ago, which would put it at 8,000.
Yeah, I guess I forget that these are thousands of years,
BC.
but I'm thinking of that 12,800 window to about 7,000 BC, somewhere in there. Agriculture pops up, written language, technologies.
Okay.
Somewhere in that
I actually have a link to.
We could do that too, yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna throw it in the appropriate Discord channel right now. So this, to my knowledge, and I think to the world's knowledge, is the... Did he quit sharing his screen?
Yeah,
I don't see him.
I'm here. What are you guys talking about?
Oh, you stopped sharing it in Discord.
Whoops.
Oh, I guess when you pop off. Okay, that makes sense. No, it's all good.
It's all
good. Click that link. No, go back to the video chat.
This isn't what you want to talk about?
No, I can't. We can't. Oh, I can. Never mind. I'm so confused at what just happened on my phone and my computer. It doesn't matter.
You're good.
This is the first. This is the first modern human.
Yep.
Homo sapien adultu. Yeah, but if you read that article, someone found another somewhat identical skeleton 195,000 years ago.
Okay.
And so, a generation is roughly 25 years, right?
Yeah, roughly 25, 30 years.
So from now to, I don't know, 7,000 years ago, let's go, or 7,000 BC, 9,000 years ago.
Yep.
How many generations is that? It doesn't matter. It's a quarter of them. So 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. Divided by 2 is like 275.
Okay.
2-1 or 225. Doesn't matter. It is 225. That compared to 7,000 years ago to 195,000 years ago there's an assumption that nothing technologically happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But anatomically, humans are the same. which is not me to say like the human conscious and the brain work the same way, but
No,
the
that was
structure of the brain was very similar.
That was the argument me and Celso were having earlier. Is what do you consider? So, if you take our modern form, like what was the earliest you see that? And by modern form, I'm assuming it's like our brain capacity, right? No, not necessarily.
Well, actually, that Wikipedia gives the brain capacity for that type of Homo sapien, but I didn't look up the normal brain capacity
Well,
in
I'm
like
just-
liters. Like how many liters can you fit in your head? It measured it.
That's what I'm saying.
I was like, that's weird.
In that 7,000 year BC window is like the most technological advance is like progressively moving forward, right? So like 7,000 years, you start seeing agriculture, which is like the most technological advance we've been at that point, and then it
Yeah,
progresses
absolutely.
forward, right?
Mhm.
You get
With
modern
language.
You get modern technology, you get written language, you get just exponential growth from then on till you get modern internet and social
Yeah.
media and what we have today.
But I totally agree with your
That's the prevailing understanding of human history as I understood it growing up. I don't want to say blanketly.
I'm saying I agree with your specificity of agriculture specifically because that allows downtime for a human in the sense that like before that you're a hunter gatherer, so everyone's every day is hunting and gathering, but the second you get agriculture, I mean, you're going to water those plants or you're going to figure out how to water them faster over time. So you're going to have more and more time to advance technologically and just kind of actually just sit around and think about things. So the tie-in of agriculture to civilization is like a hugely important one. So
we can get into that too because
I wanted to help emphasize that.
So week 1 was the war on drugs, and it's pretty crazy to think that this is going to tie back in. Dude, all of this to me is just all on the same page. So
you're going to tie this back into the war on drugs? What the fuck are you talking? Oh, are you going with the stoned ape theory?
Dude, it's all like Illuminati and knowledge and control of like consciousness for sure, 100%.
Hell yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I didn't think we were going to go back this far.
Dude, it's
but
all the same narrative.
It's
all the same
narrative. Is that Zachariah Sitchin that said that?
This is Jeremy Smith. This is coming at you from my mind.
No, the stoned ape theory was coined by
I'm definitely not claiming the stoned ape theory. That's definitely, that's the thing.
Y'all keep talking. It was Terrence McKenna.
But no, I'm saying that is proof of why you wouldn't, why that stuff's illegal nowadays is they were trying to control that means of exploration, basically.
Of the mind, specifically.
Yeah, they want the population influenced by a certain kind of drugs, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're totally okay with mind-altering drugs. You have SSRIs, you have alcohol, and all these examples of what influences the mind and stuff that's completely legal, stuff that's ancient and been around since biblical times. It's just, it's always been. But they're still mind-altering drugs. They're still within the same realms of other drugs that you would say are on par with what we were talking about on War of Drugs, like fentanyl and shit.
Yeah.
It blows my mind.
Let's explain the stoned ape theory.
Okay. You do it because you brought it.
Do you want to do it or you want me to do it?
You do it if I feel like you go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like the earliest monkeys, apes, were forced out of forests due to predation and lack of food. And I mean, you could theorize it anyway. Maybe they just wandered to the plains, but on the plains, they were looking for sources of food, and that's why they think that apes became more bipedal than quadrupedal or however you say that.
Bipedal.
Yeah, bipedal, same thing. Anyways, because they were looking up in the plains over tall grasses, and so that eventually they just like started walking that way so they could constantly see that way.
Yeah,
because in the plains, when you're searching for a predator, you look for grass folding and you can see that better from the top, obviously. But along with that, when they were looking for food, they found psilocybin mushrooms, which coincided with them getting smart in a very harmonious way.
By the way, I think it was everywhere.
Oh yeah, because we'll get into this a little more, but there were a lot more very large scale creatures because psilocybin mushrooms grow in cow shit. But in those times, there's a bunch of megalithic fauna that roams the earth that is dropping, eating the grass, doo-dooing, growing the mushrooms. How the world works.
Yeah. Lots of shit everywhere.
All right, so now you're going to segue us from the stoned ape theory into about 12,800 years ago.
No, I guess my argument would be is like when all that happened. So if you're saying the stone ape theory happened 1 billion years ago, I don't know, over the course of time that happened. I don't know those
hang on.
scales. So that's
Let me
yeah.
intrude with chat real quick. We were talking about agriculture being the source of civilization, basically.
So
Honey
what-
says Aquarius, the water bearer, represents technology, aka irrigation, when humans went from hunter-gatherers to farmers, which has a tie-in because all of these ancient civilizations that I'm sure we'll end up going over have an astrological tie-in. But so
no, I think that's I
Quill,
think that
too
it's
far
fair to
ahead.
say that there's like a certain benchmark of technology, and astrology is up there. And
yeah,
that
because it comes
is-
along with mathematics and the calculation of time specifically.
Yeah, and so there's like once you see that pop up in a civilization or a culture, it's kind of like saying, hey, they were pretty advanced, right? Like
Yeah,
saying
they were-
we were talking about earlier I'm not gonna try it, but
No, but a lot of them were smart enough to know where true north is.
true north,
Which-
yeah,
Which like go outside
Pyramids.
without a compass and figure that shit out by
Yeah.
yourself for a second.
Drake, you got some technology to figure that out.
Hell
I
yeah.
fundamentally disagree with the notion of Illuminati and or overarching groups of elites that have been controlling everything for thousands
Jason
of
would be
years.
a good one
catch
to
up.
go back and forth with. So, what would be your understanding of just the general history of technology? Do you think it's
Me?
been one progress? No, Jason, catch up.
Oh,
Is it just if you looked at a graph, would it start at 0 and slowly incline, you would have little blips of technology, but it would progressively going forward and upward, right? I want to know your understanding of what that looks like.
to address his feelings on Illuminati
I'm
because
not
I think
claiming
we
it's
have
Illuminati. I hate saying it's Illuminati. I'm using Illuminati as a word that's saying there could have been a civilization that withstood some of those ice ages, withstood some of those transitional times, and
not
transferred
Ice Ages,
knowledge.
but yeah.
Whether it was ice age, whether it was asteroids impacting, meteors impacting, comets, whatever it was, right? There was some transfer of knowledge between a civilization that knew this stuff to an underdeveloped civilization that only. We're going to get into it, but with hunter and gatherers, right?
Jeremy
I have a
Clayton is
point.
trying to follow a format. Go ahead, Drake.
Hey,
My
so no, you're good. So to add on to Ketchup's comment, I think like a good theory or a belief is that like the Illuminati or whoever overarching group of elites have been controlling everything for thousands of years, but maybe not as far back as we're talking right now. Obviously, like maybe not in even the Middle Ages, but I think they're because the Illuminati started in what 1776, like they're some shit the same
Oh,
year
you're
as
talking.
the
Well, okay.
Declaration of Independence.
Let me be the intermedium because you're talking the official group, the Illuminati, which has been proven to be like a French group or whatever.
Yeah. that's
Jeremy
not
is
necessarily-
talking about a group of elites who historically have ran things.
It's
Not the Illuminati, just generally. There's like rich people run things.
Oh yeah, I mean I believe that too. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I kind of lean towards Ketchup in that sense, in that I think that I don't think it's laser focused on anything. I think it is happenstance who is in power at the time. Maybe certain people have stayed in power because they just have a genius gene pool. I don't know. Who knows how that happens? But like Occam's razor just says, people get rich, people have influence. Influence runs the world. But that, like everything, is just is recycled. Like it's not the same people over and over.
Okay. I will concede.
Well,
Okay, go ahead, Drake. My bad.
I was just gonna say like
The elites don't necessarily retain
you gotta
their
think-
powers. Is
you gotta-
what Ketchup is saying. Yeah.
Go ahead.
You gotta think of like families that have been around for forever, like Rothschilds and
Mhm.
Rockefellers and shit that are like probably inbred as fuck, keeping that shit pure,
I
trying to
totally
stay
agree
alive
with
as long as
that,
possible.
but I'm kind of with what I think Ketchup is about to say right after I say it. There's no proof that they have any influence today.
That's fair.
You know who has influence today? Whoever runs YouTube, whoever runs Twitter, whoever runs Facebook, whoever runs the U.S. government, the Chinese government.
The Federal Reserve, the
Yeah.
CIA.
Yeah. And you could and we will argue that those people are influenced by other powerful people, but the proof that those powerful people that influence powerful people that run the world are the same people is scant. Wow. I'm being the devil's advocate
Rational
for
one.
yeah. I'm a
Okay.
conspiracy
Funny,
theorist. I would have
because
never thought.
What I was gonna say, if you take the Murdochs and the Rockefellers, those as examples of multi-generational nepotism, they
Yeah.
definitely had advantages. If you just take that small example of, say, 3 or 4 generations, at the slightest, you say they got over to the Americas, or they even carried wealth over from the Europes, and they did blah 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 blah. That's an example of our little 10,000 year cycle that I'm claiming.
Mm-hmm.
If that's happening within that 10,000 year cycle, if you don't think they had 100,000 years to run this shit, they wouldn't be like, man, we know exactly what to do.
Oh, just
We
totally
know
operating.
who to tell. We know exactly what to pass down, when to trigger this stuff, exactly how to socially engineer society.
Holy shit, dude! You just blew my mind. You're going a level higher.
That's
Okay,
what
so
I'm trying to say. If they had
you're
hundreds
saying
of thousands of years to run this game, dude, you guarantee that they're running it on a level that you just haven't
Okay.
even thought of.
and listen to this. I'll lend you some credence.
Okay.
I'll cede to you that the cataclysms we're about to talk about, which we need to get into talking about because I am trying to follow format. Those people at the time of the cataclysm are actually the most likely to survive and pass on information.
What people?
Okay, so say right now, who survives a nuclear holocaust? The
the
U.S. president,
Okay. And
right? And the richest people that were rich enough to buy bunkers and hide.
yeah, the people
for
that
long
can get
enough.
underground.
what about everybody
Yep.
else? They all die?
Yes.
If you can't,
And
yeah.
so when those rich elites go to restart humanity, they are the ones passing things down. They are the ones in
To who
power.
everybody's
at the time.
dead.
And
they
so
start over, and it's a
but
great reset.
they
That's what they
repopulate
want.
the
They want to
world.
start over because we have too many people on Earth. There's 7 billion people. Their fucking goal, I think,
Don't
is the
give-
elite society is like 500,000. So they're completely off.
Okay.
I'm getting to a larger point though.
Yeah.
So world ends today. The elites who have bunkers survive it long enough to come back out and restart humanity.
Yep.
The strongest of those, or the most socially adept, or maybe at that point even just useful humans, are the ones to run at the time to restart it. And so Jeremy's claim, in my rational mind, means that there's people are genetically predisposed to be the leader or the cream of the crop
That's not
of
what
any
I'm trying
group
to
of
say.
people. So when humanity dies off and restarts,
I'm
they're
not
the ones
claiming-
restarting it and maintaining that power.
I'm not claiming race or species or anything like that. That's not
No, I didn't
Okay.
mean like genetic, like
okay.
visible genetics. I meant like
No, just I mean, I would say economically more inclined people are the people. Yeah, you're talking about. Sure.
yeah, people are smart. People who are
Okay.
like
My only other contention
you're
would
gonna have
say
the buff dude
that
that
not
can
everybody would die. There
contend
would
the wildebeest.
there would be pockets of extreme people that know how to survive that environment, which would be the hunters and gatherers of the societies, the people in the Amazon. Like they would know how to survive those conditions, right?
Mhm.
They would be the ones that really survive ultimately.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that
Go ahead.
there are going to be people that know how to survive that situation if it's survivable through survival instincts and things of that nature. But there are going to be people who buy their way to surviving and know how to manipulate people and run the world. And so my rationalization of you saying there's people who have ruled the world for 100,000 years, or like whatever timeline you want to put on it, are going to be naturally inclined to not necessarily know how to survive, but know how to manipulate and work people, and they'll stay at the
I think
top.
we're arguing the same point because in my scenario,
No, I'm rationalizing your point to
yeah,
me.
yeah. So in my scenario, there's
myself.
10% of that population that was the 1% wealth that had all of the technology, right? Or at least the knowledge and the resources, blah, 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 blah. The
Yeah.
world get wiped out, and there's all these pockets of hunters and gatherers, and they go in like gods and be like, hey, look at all this technology. Here's math. And then it runs
Yeah.
for 10,000 years, and you get electricity, and you get all of the modern inventions you have now. And they know how long that takes. They're like, they have that down to a science. That's what I'm arguing. That's the speculation. That's my crazy conspiracy stuff. But the other side of it is stuff that I firmly believe is happening. And it's not necessarily conspiracy. And that is what is coming out in evidence with Graham Hancock and all that stuff. My crazy take on it is that there is generationally, and when I say generation, I'm talking about 12,000 year window generations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the point I rationalized, but let's get to the
Yeah.
12,800 years ago point in that archaeology's been kind of lately turned on its head with not necessarily the main focus of archaeology, but with the advancements of the internet and technology generally to date things older and older more accurately. The general notion that the birth of modern man was 7,000 BC is kind of being thrown out the window. And we brought up that article from Wikipedia in which we now have a 195,000-year-old
That's just a starting spot, right?
anatomically correct human.
Right.
But now we're finding megalithic structures like civilizations
So that
are dating earlier and earlier.
I don't think
Oh yeah.
there's a distinction.
Well before the 9,000, which means they're hunter gatherers, which means they can't do that.
Are you saying there's monolithic structures before 12,000 BC?
No,
Okay,
before
okay, yeah.
the previously accepted
Yeah.
9,000.
So
the
yeah,
Sumerians,
no, I mean
basically.
it's 2,500 really BC is whenever the Great Pyramids are built, and for the longest time the argument was the Sphinx was built alongside of it. It's all that's the peak of that technology is whenever 2,500. We'll get go ahead, Trey, because I think that's what you're going to get into.
A little bit, but Ketchup just dropped a good comment again. He said the Russian government wants Americans to be obsessed with conspiracy theories, so we don't know what to believe. But I think it's more than the Russian government.
Dude,
it's our
this
own
goes
government.
beyond all of that. I don't know. I feel like this is a European guy. It's not necessarily anything between Russians and Americans.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
this is
it's-
kind of like rewriting history, and I think China.
No,
Of
I
any
think China
culture
and
would be
Russia, they're elite. They're all aware of it, and they're running their own little games and experience. I'm not trying to say there's like one sect of these people, right? There could have been dozens of these sects that spread out and like knew when to wear and do stuff based on astrology too. We'll get into astrology because I think that was the true driving power. If you could predict these global catastrophes, then of course you would be idolized and like it would be almost a religion status, right? If you could predict this stuff.
Oh yeah. If you could predict a
So
meteor strike.
astrology would have been like almost magical, most peak scientific stuff at that point. I'm getting off of pace again, but we'll get back into it.
No, I get what you're saying. Let's preface it with something I probably already said, in that all of these megalithic structures that we're talking about have very strong ties,
To astrology.
literal observatories towards the sun, the moon, the stars, and the constellations they're in.
Specific
And
constellations, specific
yeah.
times of years.
I mean, you were talking about the Sphinx, and if this is probably the point you're getting at, it's dated to when the pyramids were built, which is 25 BC. But the Sphinx specifically, I mean, we'll get into the pyramids. I didn't want to start with Egypt, but I think that's a whole episode in itself.
Yeah, for real.
The Sphinx specifically shows signs of water erosion on the walls around it.
Yep. Just get
And that
started.
water erosion doesn't happen in Egypt and hasn't happened for 12,800 years.
It's very specific
and-
numbers. It's crazy.
If you allow for that much water to fall, we know when it fell. If you put the Sphinx back then and you look at the sunrise on the summer equinox, you look at the sunset, you look at the sky at night on the summer equinox, the constellation of Leo is in the sky directly in front of the Sphinx,
Yep.
which
Only
seems
11,000 years ago, right?
Yeah,
12,000 years ago. Whatever.
which seems like not a coincidence.
It's
Also,
hard-
because the head on the Sphinx looks
like a cat. Or
well,
something.
it looks like it was a cat, and a pharaoh went, "Hey, that cat's face is busted. Make it my face."
Yeah. That was what they were saying with the actual Sphinx. It's hard to date because it's been so many restoration projects over a course of like 4,000 years, right? They
Yeah.
constantly changed it and adapted it to whatever ruler or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. And since we're on Egypt, I mean, there's like a billion facts about the Great Pyramid at Giza, the biggest one, that big fat
Yeah.
daddy. There's a
There's
million
so many
facts.
facts. Yeah.
I know several, so I'm gonna give them to you. That bitch is 13 acres big.
It's so big.
Yeah.
The base of the Sphinx is 13 acres.
Oh, you're talking about the Sphinx.
No, I'm talking about the Great Pyramid.
Sorry.
We made it. We made it to Egypt.
Giza.
We gave some facts about the Sphinx. I'm going to give some facts about the biggest pyramid at Giza, the Giza Plateau. It's 13 acres. Most houses in America are sold at like 0.4 or 0.5 acres. So you're talking like a whole ass subdivision of homes is one big ass fucking pyramid. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
The stones are like, I don't know the tonnage. They're heavy as fuck.
No, they're about 2.5 tons a piece.
And
What?
they're like,
The granite.
I think
right,
that
thank
the
you, thank
guy
you.
Giza's like 70 tons. Sorry.
some
No,
of them are.
they're-
The ones that make the outside are
Well-
2.5.
Yeah.
Giza, I think, is 70 tons.
The ones on the inside. There's a whole inside chambers, structures.
I thought you
Here's
were-
another fact. The outside, the degree of the walls on the outside is 52. On the inside, the hallways slope at 26, exactly half. It demonstrates the number pi
Yep.
in the formulaic form within the structure itself. I think the full diameter, or not diameter,
Yeah.
perimeter is somehow mathed up to the circumference of the Earth. It's a giant math equation for like literally everything to do with Earth.
I can chime in on that too.
Have at it. You probably wrote it down. Just trying
yeah,
to pull it out of
I
my
didn't
ass.
write it down.
We were all pretty excited for this episode.
Now, the Great Pyramid is at a latitude that matches the speed of light. The King's Chamber points one way to the North Star, and the three pyramids point perfectly to Orion's Belt.
Mhm. And the
they
big
had-
pyramid is exactly north-south, or it's like
yeah, it's true magnetic north, and they had no compasses back then. So how the fuck did they figure that out?
Yeah.
You know
The
what
only
I'm
way to
saying?
know
It's
true
something like-
north is through
it's something like
astrology.
0.6 degrees off, but at the same time, it's like
So
Dope.
those stones were made of granite, which is some of the hardest rock. Like on a scale of like shit to diamond, it's like a 7, and
7 out of what,
I don't
bitch?
think he
Yeah.
said shit to diamond. So
I don't know, dude. I'm
seven-
sure.
and the diamond being the 10. The diamond being the 10. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was trying to make it up on the fly. And diamond's 10. And
Yeah, but they were quarried from miles away.
But you're like a
South
lot of
Egypt.
people believe for so long that it was slaves, like just chopping at it with fucking copper and
Yeah.
all this other shit, and it's like that did not happen.
The
It
way
wasn't
people-
slaves.
The way people try to theorize or explain how those rocks were quarried and moved, the distance and being the size they are, reminds me a lot of the single bullet theory of JFK. It's like, dude, you're being fucking hopeful. There ain't no fucking way. How many?
You talking
how
about
many-
magic bullet shit?
Yeah. Here's a question. Because I think that most people say they put them on logs and they rolled them. Give me the 8 strongest dudes you know, maybe
It's
in
not
the
8
fucking
dudes,
world
it's
right
like
now,
80,000
and a
dudes.
log and move a 2.5 ton brick. Now do it 50,000 times.
You're
I mean, those bricks are like 3 feet tall. I watched someone climb it who was allowed to climb it and put a video on YouTube. And it's like, I mean, you're climbing whatever. It's 13 acres, so a squared Pythagorean. You know, someone will give me a number.
Nope.
You're climbing real fucking high, over 3 feet at a time.
What's
It's like
the
not an
angle? Is
easy
it 10
thing to
degree
do.
angle? Is that what they were saying?
56.
What was the 10-degree angle they were talking about? It doesn't matter.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it used to be capped in limestone,
It was
and then there was a
white.
huge earthquake in like 1450 that knocked some of it loose. People started quarrying it, and as soon as some was gone, it was easier to take the rest. So now there's no capstone. That happened in the last 600 years, which is interesting.
Hey, first time in chat. Very long ramps with millions of slaves. We were listening to that earlier. So if the depending on the angle of the pyramid or something like that, the
Mhm.
ramp you would need with that's
Yeah.
what he was saying. Like anything beyond a 10-degree angle to move some of this stuff is like impossible.
Impossible.
Yeah. So you need at least 10
Yeah.
degree or lower. So that's just momentum. That's basic physics, right?
And
Yeah.
just for perspective, we're talking about the outside of the pyramid. There are rooms with exactly flat walls and seams between what you were talking about earlier, like 50-ton rocks,
Yep.
like 12-foot high ceilings, one fucking brick all the way up, slanted, stuck together at the top. Some of them are rounded. It's like unbelievable masonry work. There's no
Yeah.
mortar. There's no glue. This shit is just touching each other and doesn't move. It's like
and the fact that it used to be like white and like beautiful, but it's just been
Well,
that's
so
the capstone.
long.
That's the casing and the capstone being removed because it used to be limestone. It used to like it
Yeah, limestone,
looked like
yeah.
a star on land during the day because it
Mhm.
was so bright. with rock.
Maybe it was like pointing up to the aliens that built it.
So in that scenario, it was
Maybe,
war on
man.
drugs. It was aliens. In that scenario, the aliens are us. We've just been around for a lot longer. If the
Yeah.
Earth isn't suitable this time of period, we leave and go vacation on wherever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so let's get back to 12,800. There's some geological and climatological. Is that the correct word?
No idea.
There's some significant activities. There's a comet that hits Greenland.
It's more than Greenland. It's shatters
Well, it breaks up into 8 parts, yeah.
over North America.
And at the time,
Is there a
We
slide for
were-
this?
hey man, are you gonna say everything quiet before I can say it? Go ahead.
Is there a slide for this?
Oh, probably. Oh yeah, I actually have a video. Well, my video doesn't come in later. He's talking about the ice cores
I didn't mean
and the
to interrupt. I
temperatures
apologize.
of the time.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sure there's
I'm going through it right now. You can keep talking.
on stream. Do you have it pulled up? You don't.
I don't see it.
I don't see you. Keep talking.
Okay. 12,800 years ago, we're in the middle of the Younger Dryas period. It's right between the Pleistocene and the Holocene. It's kind of the time that encompasses the transition. And in the midst of that transition, a giant fucking comet hits the Earth. And for context, the Earth at the time is way more covered in ice. Like North America down to Colorado ish, maybe a state higher, maybe a state lower, I don't fucking know, is one huge glacial sheet. It's a shelf of like it's the North Pole was so big it made it to Colorado, is what I'm saying. And so that comet hits the Earth in what seems to be several places. Yeah, Africa, Australia. Is that the slide you have up?
No, this is just the timeline.
Ketchup
Oh,
asked
okay.
where on
As
earth
we
did it
understood.
hit?
Where on earth did the comet hit?
You see.
I know of a 1 kilometer wide crater in Greenland that they think it hit, but there's postulations that, because this is what comets do, they break apart when they enter the atmosphere. So they think it broke apart into like 7 or 8 pieces, and this kind of gets into like religious myths being allegories for actual events, because I think in the Bible it says something about 7 angels and the turning of the earth. Not the literal turning, but like the reformation of the earth into,
What it is?
I don't know. It's a cataclysmic event referenced in the Bible dealing with 7 angels that people postulate are 7 different pieces of the same comet. Anyway, the comets hit the earth and the ice shelf melts because it's basically like 8 nuclear bombs went off. Because of, I mean, like the Tunguska event that happened in the 90s in Russia, that was a 150 kilometer wide comet, and it was a 30
Jeez.
megaton nuke when it blew up above the earth. I mean, but it's actually just a fucking rock. So if you imagine 8, probably bigger ones, it threw up so much dust and shit in the atmosphere that it warmed the atmosphere, and the ice shelf started melting. And in that time of the melting, because then right after it got a little colder, and then for like 10,000 years it's been leveled off. But anyways, at that time, that time coincides with a bunch of megalithic structures being built. They're all kind of dated. They're all actually dated closer in history, but if you're talking to us, they're actually dated to like 12,800 years ago.
Is there
and that dip-
multiple? I only know of the one.
Well, it's assumed that it was one comet and multiple.
No, I meant like megalithic structures.
Oh no, there's a ass load.
I might have missed that part.
What are you just talking about Giza?
No, I'm talking about get this word right here.
Göbekli Tepe.
Göbekli Tepe, yeah. This
so
was
there's
the one that I thought we were talking about around 11,000 years old.
So there's 2 that are absolutely that old.
Where's the other one?
And there's like no evidence to them being younger. It's in my notes. I'll find it.
Well, I'm just saying this was,
Can't
I
see
mean,
my
a
fucking
good
notes.
starting point to say that this was the earliest megalith structure that we know about as of now. Yes?
It's tied with Guadang Padang. It's in West Java, Indonesia.
Nope.
That one is so old that people thought it was just a hill, and then like someone was
You said China?
Indonesia.
Indonesia.
Did I put it in the Discord?
They thought Indonesia was like a whole continent until, it got flooded, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
If every major culture and major religion has a story of a flood,
A
wouldn't
flood,
that
yeah.
Yeah, there's
indicate-
probably a fucking flood.
wouldn't
Did I share that
indicate
one?
A global flood, though, right?
Like
Not just one civilization, not just one culture, but like all cultures all at the same time experiencing the same flood story. I don't know.
so the flood happened.
It's just what Clayton's talking about. There was
it's
some significant
Guadang
event.
Padang. Here, I'll shoot you the wiki page for it.
There was some significant event around that time that triggered this climate change, right?
Yeah, the comet hitting basically transformed our atmosphere long enough to melt the ice sheets and put the Earth into basically like a new homeostasis, but temperatures degrees higher so that people could function like outside more often in a greater range of the Earth.
That was
And,
something else I wanted to get into too, but we'll get there.
Oh, I have a whole slide on that.
I don't what?
It's a YouTube video on the ice cores and the temperatures of the Earth at these given times. Now I don't remember what my train of thought was.
This is karma.
I need another beer. That's what my train of thought was.
You said
Really
you had
for
a
that.
video for this?
Yeah. Okay, hang on. Here in a second. Comet hits, Earth warms, people go outside,
What do you mean?
Ocean
people go
levels.
outside?
sea levels.
What do you mean?
They go
people
outside more. Human civilization is kind of tied with temperature of the Earth.
Okay.
In that, like in the Dark Ages, from 900 to like 1100 AD,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
everything was like 4 degrees colder, and that's when like the plague happened. It was a like small reboot. It was like reinstalling your drivers right before a podcast level crazy section of time.
It could have gone unknowable. Like the universe would have just been oblivious. But now it's out there.
Um,
That's out there.
so you can somewhat associate like, and then right after that, right after the plague and the Dark Ages, where everything was 4 degrees cooler, came the medieval warming period, which instituted all the cathedral building in Northern Europe.
Yeah.
And allowed the Vikings to travel from, Norway, Newfoundland, whatever the fuck, to Greenland and Iceland. And it like they were growing wine grapes in Greenland, which now is like permafrost permanently. And so there was a warmer time then, and it is associated with the progress of humans. And then the warmer time in 12,800, after the comet hit and melted everything, is associated with these megalithic structures. And to put megalithic structures in some context, that's all I'm going to do all day. I'm just going to put shit in context. You cannot be a hunter-gatherer society and build like mega permanent structures, city centers, cities in general, because you don't have the time to do so, and you don't have the human resources to undertake something like that.
Especially in that climate.
It requires agriculture. And so, along with us saying 12,800 years ago there were megalithic structures, we're saying there's a whole society, because there necessarily has to be. Because you cannot quarry 1-ton stones,
Dude,
move
you could
them,
do that right now. You could say, I'm going to
and
take
stack
100
alone.
of my friends right now, and we're going to figure out how to build this. It's going to take you a long, long time. No,
Right.
if you had some information handed to you in some form of population control, maybe, it would be easy. That's all I'm
What
saying.
is that point? Explain that further. I think I'm about to vehemently disagree with you.
Yeah, what do you mean population control for what?
I lost my camera somehow.
What the fuck were you talking about? Where'd you even go?
That's what
What
did.
room is this?
It's my office. You don't like it?
Yeah, bullshit.
Okay. So, anyways,
Wow.
you have to assume there's some sort of agriculture, probably like animal husbandry, shit like that, to undertake something like this, of anything of this magnitude. Like, we're talking rocks bigger than are in the Parthenon of the Greeks. Does that make sense? Like, the Greeks are well known to have created so much ideological things and great structures and statues and art, and the Roman times they had the gladiator battles in the whatever that shit's called. That might be the Parthenon, the Colosseum, which are huge stone structures. But the megalithic structures we're talking about, the rocks are bigger. They might look a little more like rocks, but where did Jeremy go, really? I need him to pull up a picture.
Oh, I don't know where he went.
Is he pissing?
I'm here. Just my camera's extremely out of focus. I don't know what to do.
No.
What do you need to see? Pull it up.
There you
Just a
are.
weird orb person, barely.
I see you now.
Click one of the Getty Images links from above
Right here.
that. Yeah, one of those.
Okay.
And tell me which one it is. It's labeled.
I mean, it pulled
I'll
up
look.
a whole
Don't worry
mess.
about it. Oh, it should say it on there. What location is that?
Teotihuacan.
Teotihuacan.
There you go.
So this is in Mexico. Scroll down these images and pick one that looks interesting. So Teotihuacan specifically had a solar observatory It was a huge rectangle, and on the summer solstice, the sun would rise exactly with the front left pillar and set with the back left pillar. And on the winter solstice, it would rise on the front right one and set on the back left right one. So it was like a perfect stone monument set to equinoxes. And this was hard for astrologers to find out because there's a wicked long name for the wobble of the earth that's like 40,000 year cycles. I don't remember the name for that, but they put it to 12,008 years ago, and that's when the sun and moon rise and set, or that's when the sun rises and sets exactly equally with those posts. So it's another way to date ancient megalithic structure astrologically. It's actually called astroarchaeology. They don't let you study that in college. I tried.
That's $500 right there.
What?
The picture in the Getty Images.
Oh, you have to pay $500. But they had giant pyramids and all
No, the
kinds
large,
of stuff like that.
yeah, the large picture of those pyramids.
You looking at price, bro? Oh, there's pictures of Machu Picchu. Ketchup wants to see that.
Which one is that?
It'll say Machu Picchu right under it. Or you can just type Machu Picchu in that search bar. Actually, on this one, type in Machu Picchu walls because I want to point something out.
Was it this right here? Is that what you're
Yeah.
looking for?
So there's pictures that will put this in perspective, but a person is like, if you're in the very middle of the picture, as tall as both those bottom blocks is one person. These stones are that huge, you cannot fit a piece of paper in between them. They're carved perfectly. They're not melted. They carved them that way. And they're not uniform shapes. They're actually 3D shapes. So like that big ass square in the middle might be like a trapezoid down the backside. And the other two are like angled that way too when they were cut. They're 3D shapes cut perfectly all together. And the reason they did that is because there's a lot of earthquakes and shit. And those walls are like pretty incredible and not falling apart. But there's no glue, there's no mortar. It's literally just rocks on rocks. Cut rocks on cut rocks
Nothing.
with tons of weight.
It's fucking insane, dude. Like,
And
hey, buy that medium. Add a cart.
yeah, right. The Inca who occupied Machu Picchu did not have metal tools.
What they use?
Who the fuck knows, dude? What would you use?
Use their minds.
It's not a metal tool.
They had
Tool.
alien help, man.
You were the one that was
That's
supposed to look up technology, Tree.
No, I know, but I was asking him.
No, I don't know. So it's limestone blocks and vinegar can melt limestone, which I learned today, actually. But it doesn't melt uniformly, so it's unless they had a real good understanding of vinegar. Jeremy, stop disappearing.
I don't know what to do about this focus, man.
No, you're good.
Am I?
Well, you're far away from me, so
Is that an argument for being out of focus?
I don't know.
You couldn't tell if I was in focus to begin with? Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying? I think
Yeah,
I'm
that is
alright.
exactly what
I
I'm
think I'm
saying.
alright.
And so that type of masonry work, that type of craftsmanship, Teotihuacan, no, not Teotihuacan, not Machu Picchu, not the one with an S that I still can't pronounce.
Clayton's still behind that couch.
No, it is the one. It's Sacsayhuaman. It sounds like sexy woman. Sacsayhuaman. It should be one of the first photo.
Oh, and the Discord.
That yeah, that location has inset.
I don't want
like
to
it-
download it.
They're giant andesite bricks, and cut out of them will be like a cross shape, and then past that cross shape is another one cut out. There's like 3 levels of inset carved out shapes in andesite bricks, and andesite is pretty goddamn hard too. Actually, in Minecraft, it's a building thing that you can polish, so it's pretty hard. But there's no explanation really for how one does that in that manner.
What year was this supposed to be?
Well, I was looking into everything that dates it at 1200 or 12,800. I'm not sure who it's actually subscribed to.
Machu Picchu, Mexico, right?
Yeah, that was supposed to be the
Or Peru? Which
Incans?
one?
Sacsayhuaman is in Peru and is Inca.
How do you spell that?
Sacsayhuaman.
Oh yeah.
But they kind of did the same thing with giant brick, yeah, which are 3D cut to sit perfectly and not move during an earthquake, or to at least move back to where they fit. But they also had they found a arch with a calendar on the top that's like very ornately done. The Spanish, when they found all this shit, they fucking ransacked it and like ruined everything because I guess they were dickheads back in the 1400s.
You think?
But that one had been buried from I think it was a flood or something, to where just like the right side of it was sticking out, and people were like, "Hey, that looks awfully uniform. We should dig it up." And they dug it up, and it hadn't been messed with too much, and only that right corner had been eroded because it was underground.
Dude, that was something else I didn't look too much in, but the Gobekli Tepe, whatever that was.
Yes, it is in the Andes.
That one was like intentionally buried, right?
I'm realizing Clayton is still on that couch. Hell yeah.
It's weird.
Gobekli Tepe. Yeah, how do you
But
say it?
aren't you not behind that couch?
No, I am.
Oh,
It's right there. Yeah, it was intentionally buried.
I didn't get too much into that. I mean, I can imagine it was because of like just to hide it from.
I don't know that there's an explanation as to why they think it was,
Yeah.
other than the geological stratification of the soil was that of not a flood. So the only way it could be buried the way it is if someone intentionally buried it.
But why?
I think that's the only reason it's a fact surrounding it, is because they looked at the dirt and went, "Oh, it didn't flood. Someone must have buried it."
But why?
Yeah.
Machu Picchu was never invaded. I think they were.
That's true.
equating
Machu
that
Picchu wasn't
to-
found until like the 1800s.
No, they were saying there was some. I can't remember if he was French or Spanish, but he was in the Amazon like at the 1400s or the 1300s, maybe.
Okay.
And then 100 years later, they came back through and everybody was gone.
That was not Machu Picchu.
No, I know, but that was the Amazon. I'm just saying, like within 100 years, like the smallpox stuff had wiped out mass population out there.
Yeah, no, but they slaughtered a lot of civilizations. But Machu Picchu is in the Andes Mountains. It's like 3,000 feet above sea level or something.
Yeah.
It overlooks. No, never mind. Sexy Woman overlooks Cusco. Sacsayhuaman.
Cusco?
Yeah, Cusco-topia, dude.
Emperor's New Groove?
Pacha.
Man, that used to be my favorite movie.
It's a great movie.
It's still a great movie. So, what year was it? What year are we talking about? Putting this, you're saying right around the same 12,000 year period?
That's where there's evidence, because there's evidence that all these are that old. There's even some evidence that where I've been, those links are in there too. I think you have to download them. Chichen Itza, I'm wearing the hat. You can't tell because I'm too far away. I called it chicken pizza, but it's called Chichen Itza. Chichen Itza.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
There's evidence that all these like ancient, you can make an argument for all of them.
Yeah.
Because they're all quarrying similar types of stone and moving them very far away. There's less evidence of Chichen Itza. But anyways, what the fuck was I talking about?
Chichen Itza, or the stones moving, 12,000 year period.
Okay, there's a lot of Chichen Itza seems more like where one of these civilizations deserted to and built a little bit smaller. Maybe they had a smaller workforce or something like that. But with Chichen Itza specifically, there's some crazy audio.
You talking about when you
There-
clap and it goes up?
Yeah, there are anomalies. Like if you clap at the bottom of the
Sounds like a bird.
Castillo temple or whatever, it sounds like the. Why do you gotta ruin it before I say it? It sounds like the bird that's up the stairs. Yeah, but they have the largest ball court in South America. And if you speak on, there's like boxes on each side, and then like audience here, and then the wall with the goal on this side.
Yep.
If you talk in this box, you can hear it hit that box and bounce back. And it's like a basketball court away,
Mm-hmm.
but it's incredibly loud. Like it doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense that you can clap and it sounds like a bird. So that's why I think they at least have something in touch with these people who were able to build giant megalithic structures.
Just
The rocks
earliest
aren't
forms.
necessarily as big.
Yeah.
So I mean they're huge and it is a fucking pyramid, you know.
I think
But it's less impressive structurally. It's more impressive in like, how did you know that you could build this exactly like this and then hear yourself talk?
no, that's that. Okay, so to tie into Honey, we are following a timeline. So this originally was train of thought of thinking, what is the preconceptions of whenever civilization really started, right? This is a good one, okay? So the earliest evidence of riding, oldest wheeled vehicle, blah, blah, blah. So the earliest forms of modern, what we would say is technological advances, 35,000 BC, right? Great period of
Or comedy.
Giza is 2,500 years. Ancient Egypt civilization peaks around 3150 to 30 BC. I said BC twice. 30 BC.
I don't think the earliest evidence of writing is 35,000 BC. Or
This-
3,500.
I can't remember where we got this, but I'm not saying this is what I believe. I think this is just the general assumption of what the timeline of
Okay.
civilization
Yeah,
looks like.
I'll buy the timeline, but I think since this graph was made, it's been moved.
Okay. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying generally somewhere around 35,000 years we got at least far enough along technologically wise to develop writing, to develop agriculture, to develop the basis. We went from hunters and gatherers to coming
Yeah.
together and saying, "Hey, let's create agriculture and create civilization." This is the dawn of Western civilization right here.
Okay, I agree. And by 3,200, we're combining tin and copper,
Sure.
making bronze. That's why
No.
it's called the Bronze Age.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, so
Okay.
this is the timeline that I grew up assuming, right? We all grew up assuming. This is
Yeah.
close to biblical history as you're going to get.
Oh, is this supposed to be based on biblical history?
No, not at all. I'm just saying, as from our perspective growing up, this is what I was taught, right?
Okay, you need to explain that we live
This
in
is
like
not a world perspective. This is my perspective growing up as a white cis male, sure, whatever.
Okay.
In the state
That's a
that I
great way
grew
to
up, in the county that I grew up, in the state I grew up. But this is what I assume is the prevailing understanding of what is the recorded history, right?
Pull up what John just sent he texted it to you.
That's going to be fun.
Can you not pull that up?
I can
Here.
pull it up. I got it.
I can post it in Discord pretty quick.
Do it. You could probably do it faster than I can.
Okay, give me a second. Anyway, keep going. Continue your thought.
That's just what I assumed, right? That was the assumption.
Yes.
What's this next one? Recorded history is right here in this 9,000, there's 3,000 window right there. Humans first cultivate wheat. Sorry, 9,000 BC, agriculture. Last ice age is what we're kind of focusing on right here, 13,000 to 10,000. We're saying 1280 to about 11,600.
It's in Discord.
First humans migrate over the Bering Strait. So a big debate was that the first time Americans ever came over to North America was somewhere around that same time period, whenever the ice bridge opened up and that they could cross over in this period right here.
I actually wrote a paper in my history class about that exact idea.
Well, this is all bullshit now.
My archaeology class, I'm sorry, in college. And refuting it. Because obviously now we know the Vikings skirted the northern Arctic Circle and made it over. But there's also evidence of, and I specifically use cultures from South America being older than found cultures in North America to prove that someone probably also skirted the southern Arctic Circle to make it into like Chile and Argentina and in the very bottom.
I don't know how to open that without downloading it.
You have to download it. It's a picture. Don't worry.
Browser though, that's what I'm trying to say.
Can you not just pull up a image looking app?
Image looking app?
Just download it and click open, and whatever app pops up,
oh yeah, I'm gonna have to create
on
a
your
window.
screen.
Yeah, that's not the way you have it done. Window capture?
He has another timeline. But he took a landscape picture vertically, so it's shitty. Yeah, 12,000 years ago, this says the agricultural revolution, domestication of plants and animals, permanent settlements. Oh, what the fuck book is this from? 12,000 years ago puts it at 10,000 BCE, which is what I thought it was, not 35,000.
Is this Carl Sagan's book, John?
3,500, sorry.
I'm sorry I can't share this. It seems so stupid. Window capture, no. Display capture, I guess. Sure.
This is BCE, correct? Years before the present. Yeah.
Oh wow.
No.
I got it. You guys don't sweat it. I got it.
BCE is before Common Era. Dude. What the fuck is this?
I don't know. I'm just like in awe right now at the fucking screen.
That's worse than the GIF behind the intro.
I need a workstation
Jesus.
to work on the other side.
No, so he has. I'll just read it out then if we can't pull it up. I
This is Carl Sagan's
pull it
book,
up
right?
either. No, it's Yuval Noah Harari. It's called *Sapiens: A Brief History of Humankind*. This looks newer than probably what Jeremy's talking about. Oh, he fixed the pictures. Thank you, John. So it has 16,000 years ago. Sapiens settle America. Extinction of American megafauna. No, megafauna didn't go extinct for another 2,000 years. This is incorrect. $13,000 years ago.
Yourself?
When
No,
was the
I'm
book
arguing
published?
the pictures, the timeline John sent.
When was the book published?
Disregard what John sent.
Okay.
He didn't send that. Disregard a person smarter than me that wrote a whole ass book.
I don't know why it's not capturing that particular application.
It doesn't matter. Where were we on our timeline?
Thanks a lot, John. You see what you did to us?
You failed the rolling third.
This is a good place to start. It's a good place to start because he kind of covers more than I was doing.
Oh, I love that.
I had to shame him.
He was covering more than I was. So the general assumption up until recently, because Jeremy can't open an image in 2022. If you only knew the difficulties we had, even.
Oh, play that timeline video. I sent that first, I think.
A lot of what I'm talking about, I feel like, was in this video, and I don't know.
Yeah, but you don't have a way of saying things succinctly.
Oh, do we have this? Do we
You're
have
going
this
back
in
to
the?
school before you submit your
Yeah. It's got a big robot with a Sauron eye on his chest. It's right above the timeline you sent.
That's not what I'm talking about, but whatever. You guys hear that?
Yes.
You're welcome. This guy's awesome. We need to
did you
plug
put it
him
and
at
watch
the end of the
together?
show. Yeah.
Did you pause it?
I did pause it. So
Hi there,
we
and
need to make sure to
welcome to
plug
a
this
special
guy
episode.
at the end of the show.
Uncharted X
Dude, yeah, this guy was amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
on
yeah.
YouTube has like all the information. This isn't actually his channel. He's like stepping in for like a I don't know, teach kids channel or something.
Okay,
Episode of After
But
School.
that doesn't matter.
he does a great
My
job.
name is Ben, and I produced the Uncharted X
Uncharted
over
X
the
on
last
YouTube.
decade. Is
Follow
the
that
fight for
shit.
the ancient Sumerians kick us off, then
There we go.
Egypt, Babylon, the Greeks, the Romans,
The Mongols!
China's great dynasties, and all the rest. Soon we're playing with swords and castles and serfs and slaves. Now it's time to up our painting game, and we have ourselves a renaissance.
I don't remember going this depth.
Someone observes that Steam expands, which is still the basis of our entire
Yeah.
economy. The evidence that our history is longer and much more complex
Okay.
just continues to stack up.
Here we go.
The narrative
skipping
that this
ahead.
new evidence weaves is frankly alarming. It tells a tale of unimaginable destruction, a tale of the rise and fall
Ooh,
of
I have
unknown
some
yet
mad.
undeniably mighty civilizations, of advanced technologies that were created, used, and then lost to us.
Okay.
A cycle of death.
So what he is talking about? Why does this fucking zoom out every time I click off of it?
Excuse me.
He is talking about uniformitarianism, which is the viewpoint that archaeology has had in the past, that things tend to stay the same for long, long periods of time. And that came about because most religions were forms of cataclysms and like great flood stories, shit like that.
Yeah.
And so archaeology as a science went, okay, we don't think there was a great flood. Probably everything has been somewhat the same for a long period of time. So we look through everything we find. We look through that lens with everything we find. And so the way that they have described, kind of going back to what Jeremy is talking about, his timeline that he was taught his whole life, the way they're looking at the pyramids is through uniformitarianism, in that one day they got built and then they were there forever. Let's try to figure out who takes credit for building the pyramids because we have the history. Not necessarily like, let's look at erosion or use astrological signs and different forms of science to apply to these sites to date them, and kind of totally discarding any type of cataclysm to explain why something can look this way and then have a culture. Like, if you look through it in that things gradually grow and there's no huge upheavals, then you kind of miss, you don't have the ability to see a culture move into a site that already existed because you're assuming they grew into that site. Does that make sense?
Trying to grasp it.
Okay, so like the Inca occupied Machu Picchu, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Inca didn't have a way to make Machu Picchu. They did not have metal tools, but they were carving tonnage of limestone.
Yeah.
And so if you look at that through the lens of like, maybe something happened, these people moved out and these people moved in, that's cataclysmic. That's something forced these people to move, new people moved in.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at through it via uniformitarianism, then that culture who lived there had to grow to where they could make it, when they don't necessarily have to be the ones who made it.
I agree.
That's just the difference in the train of thought of archaeology now and
For sure.
kind of what's on the cusp of archaeology.
No, he was
Rebirth
making
on
a sound
scale that is
argument
beyond anything can.
Sorry.
for why archaeology shouldn't be considered a science, and that I was agreeing with him for sure.
Who said go fuck yourself?
Whoa.
Whoa.
That must have been Jeremy. Oh, because someone made fun of Jeremy. I get
contained
it.
within our current version of history. A version that, in the
Wasn't
light
saying
of
anything,
all
yeah.
this new evidence, can simply be considered but the latest
I don't
revolution
even see
of
that
the
it says
cosmic
go fuck
hamster
yourself.
wheel
Where
of
does it
human
say that?
civilizations.
Funny Nut Theorios type GFY.
Let's put a few examples
Oh,
of this new
shit.
evidence into some context.
Now I see
Here's
it.
a New Scientist article from 2006, which
Wait, what's
was,
that mean?
if you're at all like me and in complete denial about getting older,
We're not
shockingly
even
16
watching this
years
video
ago
right
now.
now.
Although you wouldn't know it from the music that I still listen to. This article lays out the timeline of human evolution, the mainstream story of history as it was taught in 2006.
Okay, that's what we've been
So,
looking at.
let's make a
What do you
graph
have to
and
say
talk
about
about
it?
us kids. Around
This is
195,000
the
years
images I
ago,
was showing.
we emerge onto the scene and
Yeah.
into the Stone Age.
This
Here
is
we
that
stay
first
for
humanoid
many
we were
tens
talking
of
about.
thousands of years until we start eating mushrooms, having visionary experiences, drawing cave art, burying
This is
our
Stone Man
dead,
theory.
creating symbolic and abstract concepts.
We took an
also
hour and
called
15
the
minutes
Great
to
Leap
explain
Forward,
what he's about to
which
explain
was
in
some
30 seconds.
50,000 years ago, around the same time
Nice.
that humans first colonized Australia. Then,
He touches
roughly
on what I
12,000
was-
years ago,
what I'm getting
and
at.
still globally in the
Yeah.
Stone Age, mind you, modern humans finally reached the Americas. The Stone Age eventually comes to an end only a scant 6,000 years ago from now, when the first true civilization that leads directly to us begins with the ancient Sumerians in Mesopotamia, which was mostly in what's now modern-day Iraq.
And
Wow.
so
Let's look at some
That
of the new
6,000 years ago
evidence
is the
since
first form of
2006
writing.
and
A cool
how it
little
should
video.
be
There
you go.
affecting this timeline. A new find of human remains in Morocco made us instantly more than 30% older than we first thought, pushing the earliest date of our species back to some 300,000 years ago.
ooh, I haven't seen that.
New DNA evidence analysed from Neanderthal remains estimates
sent the
our
video.
split
What do you mean you
with
didn't
them
see it?
from a common ancestor
You're right.
as far back as 800,000 years ago. Not only that, but
Aubrey is like
discoveries of
top
entirely
5%
new species
Neanderthal.
of hominids
I haven't taken
like
the test yet. I'm probably a little
Homo floresiensis
more.
or the
That's tied
Denisovans.
into the theory is that we coexist with a lot of these species a lot longer periods of time than we probably
Oh
think.
yeah, no, there's like it's proven that there were different types of humans in early Homo sapien life. Like I think there was an island with pygmy people on it.
Hmm.
I can't tell you any of the names. I didn't look this up at all. But I have in the past, so I just don't have particulars. But there was definitely an island with like the entire population is under 4 foot tall, but they're all human skeletal frames. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I remember them arguing over if it was a different species altogether, or if it was.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of getting on the fringes, I think, too.
I
But-
mean, maybe that's like Frodo and all his buddies.
dude. So yeah, that's not necessarily fringe stuff. But so whenever we were talking about Lord of the Rings, even right, Tolkien's writing his version of mythology according to like that region of the planet,
Mhm.
Northern Europe. Maybe they have stories pre-flood, pre-12,000 years that involved some of these other creatures and some of these other species of humans that were tied into their mythology and their religions and stuff that maybe got wiped out or aren't around anymore, that are just, that we think of just as mythology. It didn't really
Oh
happen.
yeah, no. Like I've been in situations where people are talking about in their online situations. I don't hang out with people. Every ancient civilization has some type of flying serpent
Yeah,
um,
dragons. Have you ever found a
deity
full
or
T-Rex?
mythology. And so like anthropologists are going, hey man, maybe there were fucking actual flying lizards, because we have nothing to connect Australia, or maybe not Australia, but like China with South America. We have nothing at all. But they have Quetzalcoatl, and the Chinese have the myths of dragons. And so does,
Dude, wait.
Europe or whatever. And so they're like, there's nothing tying them together.
Yeah.
Is it within human nature to make mythical creatures, and it's just an easy leap to go flying lizards or flying snakes or whatever? Or is it that like there used to be something fucking flying around that was like pretty significant? It's the same way that they merged like the cataclysm stories with dating religions as myths passed down through storytelling, and they all actually refer to the end of the Younger Dryas period 12,800 years ago.
And we just all thought that was the start of civilization.
Yeah, like how much credence do you lend the spoken word to civilizations when it comes to things like that. Is it nothing? Because it's probably not nothing,
What do you?
especially if there's like coincidental evidence from cultures that never talked.
I think it's more evident than that. I think
Pretty crazy.
I think there's technology that's inherent in each one of these cultures, right? If you want to say it's astrology, if you want to say it's geometry, if you want to say it's sacred geometry,
Masonry.
the technology is what I'm saying is the magic, the resource that was passed down, transcended.
Yeah. No, I'm agreeing with you. I didn't say masonry.
That's what
Tongue in
connects
cheek,
the
I
civilizations,
totally mean that.
though. You have pyramids because there's some significance to a pyramid, but they're in China, they're in Egypt, and they're in Mexico. Like they're in all parts of the world at the same time.
Yeah.
To me, that points to some world sharing of knowledge at the bare minimum. And I'm not saying that they all had the same culture or religion. I'm saying maybe hundreds of thousands of years they shared some form of geometry that evolved into what they had. But it is all sourced from this original source of what was handed down, which would have been mathematics.
Yeah, because, I mean, exactly what I said with the dragon thing, it's more realistic with, like, actual, real, still around pyramids in civilizations that had no contact with each other, but they all built pyramids. In South America, they tend to be square all the way up.
It's
But-
Stonehenge.
Egypt's the only one that got it smooth.
There's
but-
examples of
but-
Stonehenge in the Amazon right now. Like,
The
what is
ones-
that? Sorry, Drake.
No, you're good. The pyramids that are in Mexico, or the Mayan pyramids, they weren't even built for like thousands of years later after the Egyptian ones.
You
Wait.
talking about?
Say what you just said again?
Yeah.
The Mayan pyramids weren't built for like, I think like thousands of years after the Great Pyramids in Egypt were already built.
Well,
So like there was
no. It
That
also
can't be.
depends on what date you're using. So,
When
the
do you,
Incans
when you,
that we
when you
just
saying
talked
the
about,
pyramids were built?
the Incans that we just talked about, sexy woman, woman. If you attribute it to the culture who was living in it, they built it in tandem with the Egyptian pyramids. If you attribute the Egyptian pyramids to the Egyptians,
Drake's right.
and so their timelines are in tandem. If you move it to 20 or 12,800 years ago, they're still in tandem. Does that make sense?
If you
I
move it
got you. I
to
got you.
the 1400s,
They said they built it in the 1400s.
the complex was built in Inca in the 15th century.
That's Machu Picchu. That's not Sacsayhuaman, is it?
When was Sache Woman built?
Yeah, 15th century.
I'm sure I have I have the Wikipedia up.
For what? This is not it. This is Wikipedia.
No, I already had it, is what I'm saying.
15th century.
15th century. Yeah, click on that.
From my understanding, this would be almost 4,000, 3,000 years after Pyramid
Oh,
of
it does
Giza.
say the 15th century. That's fucking stupid.
That doesn't necessarily throw things off for me, though.
They think they built
The-
this shit right before Columbus hit North America.
See.
That's what I'm having trouble buying.
Well, Columbus hit America in what year was that? 1492?
92.
Yeah.
Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Forgot about that song. That's
So
just a
that
banger.
doesn't necessarily throw a kink in whatever I'm saying.
Except he was a horrible person.
It does what I'm saying. One of those motherfuckers was built at the same time as the pyramids. But
I think
maybe
you're
the
thinking
ones
the one
that
that
are
starts with a T.
in
I can't remember
Antarctica.
what it's called.
Teotihuacan.
What? How do you spell that?
T-E-O Teotihuacan. I don't know.
I think this is the older. This is the first one. The other stuff was built upon this stuff, and
That
I
one's in
believe
Mexico.
what?
Well, there's evidence that all of them were built upon.
No, I'm
What is
saying
the-
this. What?
What is the official date for Teotihuacan?
Teotihuacan.
The 1st century Common Era. What the fuck does that mean?
It's 100 years after.
Like 100?
100 years after Christ.
But they're saying the pyramids were 2,500 years BC,
Yes.
35.
You don't get to say that I'm. You don't get to say that I'm looking at it from that biblical point of view when we're literally in the year 2022, based on what?
Yeah. No, I'm not.
It's not just me.
I just wanted you to explain that the culture is based on.
I'm saying the culture that we're basing 2022 is wrong.
Yeah, when you were explaining it, I just wanted you to explain it that you're explaining it from a cultural position of a Christian-based.
Did the Chinese
Civilization.
2022?
Yeah, they do actually.
The Mayans were like predicting 2012, right?
They thought
Yeah,
they
but
were.
So their calendar is very specific, but it's also kind of confusing. So I think it was actually 2021.
Yeah. Oh, we
But
are
that's
beyond the
nothing
halfway
happened.
point. I don't know if y'all want to take a break or not.
But either way, I
Yeah,
mean,
we
I
can
do
take a
have to
break.
pee. Do I have to pee at this time every time?
We can take a break. It's fine.
We'll take a break. I needed to refresh my drink, I guess.
Cool.
We'll be back.
We'll be back.
Hit the break button. I gotta pee.
Go. I'm gonna outro us. Just leave comments if you guys are if we're missing not discussing something. Appreciate it. We'll be back.
these civilizations that seem to pop up out of nowhere that kind of can't be a coincidence, and that it doesn't make sense for civilization to just start so quickly after not having started for so long. So he wrote some books, and then this guy named Randall Carlson, that's the video we're about to pull up, took a huge interest in geology and cataclysm events, and has really good explanations about things that are being found. Like in eastern Washington, there's huge deep caverns, and I mean they're not Grand Canyon size, but you know you can go look at them on a tour type situation. And but they seemed like they were eroded that deep immediately, not over thousands of years. There's no there's very little water in the bottom of them now. Why would they have eroded that much? Anyway, so he kind of presents evidence from what I've seen that the comet impact that happened 12,800 years ago melted the ice caps, and the ice caps had to melt away into the ocean. And he's brought up evidence of the geology of like the Midwest and Northwest America actually being erosion of an immense proportion of like billions of gallons of water at a time, because all these ice caps are being melted really, really fast. And so this video is like 7 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole 7 minutes, he makes points that I want to talk about. So maybe we pause and talk about them. But I do want to kind of get the whole gist of what he's saying.
What?
Play it.
Cool. But if y'all get bored, tell me to stop it.
Drill through. It was
2 miles
Well, you
thick.
tell us when
Yes,
the
yeah.
point you're trying to focus
Just
on.
think about how
Okay.
far, like,
So he's talking about the Greenland ice
how
caps.
far 2
Well, I mean,
miles
when he
is.
gets
Like,
to
what
it,
is a
but go
plane?
ahead.
Yeah. Right now, he's talking about the Greenland ice cores.
Yeah.
He's about to say this, so I shouldn't. But they drill 2 miles deep in the ice, and they can isolate chemicals, and they're verifying the amount of oxygen and I think something else, and you can determine temperature because you can determine how much ice melted. Type situation. It's like a
Plane. A
20-year
plane's a mile
project.
in the air?
No. Well, a jet's going to be about 30,000 feet.
What's
But
a mile? 35,000 feet?
A mile? Now you got to remember this because it's going to
Yeah.
be an important
Okay.
number.
Maybe
5,280
2040 is better.
Is a mile.
Or
is a mile.
1540.
Right.
Oh.
Now, the tallest building was, I don't remember what it was. I know the tallest building in Atlanta is 1,060 feet. And, 2 miles, you'd have to think of 10 of those stacked on top.
He's talking
of
about
each
how
other.
far down they
2
went.
mile thick sheet of ice. That's
2 miles is
amazingly
Yeah.
huge.
I mean,
massive
and
ice.
ooh,
Right.
I actually
Right.
have a prop.
And that's pretty
prop?
much the
That.
summit.
You
of
brought
it.
a propped?
No, I just have one.
Didn't know we were supposed to
There
be
it is.
props.
No, keep playing the video. I'm gonna get it
shit.
while it's
Right.
playing.
And what we're looking at on this graph here, if you go down the left side of the graph, it's the surface, and then down here this 1,500 you see right at the bottom, that's 1,500 meters, right? 1,500 meters. You figure there's about 3.28 feet per meter, so that's going to be 45.
The
it's
Joe
gonna be,
Rogan
close to
podcast
5,000. So this
podcast.
is 1,500 meters. times
Didn't we say
Roughly a
that? We already
mile.
said that.
yeah, a
The
little
joke's
less than a
recycled.
mile. Over here on the right is the time
Do what now?
in thousands
Plain-
of years before.
I know you were going
Yeah.
to school to be a geologist, but
Geographer.
geographer.
Totally different study.
I don't want to spend too much time on looking at
Ice core samples?
or charts like this.
Are you telling me to stop?
What's the point of this? What are you trying to say right now?
This is
Show
a
us
prop. This is a concrete core. This is what he's talking about, but it's ice and it's 2 miles long.
That's ice core?
It can be thicker, but it's not going to be more than like this thick. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They're pulling molecules from something that looks like this.
But that's not ice. That's concrete.
Yeah.
Okay.
You think I just have ice on the other side of the room?
Dude, you know what? Never mind.
Okay, he's talking about the temperatures being normal for like 10,000 years.
You could tell the climate of the planet based on ice core samples.
Okay, yeah, that line you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you full screen the video?
before the press.
How do I do that?
That's a good question. I don't actually know. Anyways, that line on the yellow is temperatures, and they're very stable. If you, and that's like a 10,000 year period. But he gets to the part of the graph.
Was if you look back now at the studies from that medieval warm period, you see
This is way after it. See, you should just let me play it.
I haven't touched the video, bro.
Already be done by now.
I know, but you totally rushed me. This is like, it should say on there. I can't really see it. That 1500 is not the year, but this section is 12,800 years ago, or right before it. So, dead in the middle of the screen where it goes right real far, that's like right after the first collision. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The further right you go, the hotter it is.
Okay. Right on.
So it was an ice age on the left. Then something happened, and that's like a 5-year period of like 10 degrees change in the atmosphere. And it just shoots to the right, and then it shoots back and freezes again, and then it levels out.
Wow.
And the explanation is that the comet hit, it melted the glaciers, the Earth rebounded, and then like found a medium with everything that had happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense looking at it now.
And you can kind of, comets and nukes are similar in the way they explode and affect the climate. Like there's postulations that you could nuke Mars and get water back on it
That was
if you just cloud the atmosphere. Clouding the atmosphere does a lot to a planet.
you create
so-
a greenhouse effect, basically.
Yeah, and so they think that those comets basically created that greenhouse effect immediately, too quickly, and then they melted so much that the Earth had to change, but it did go back to homeostasis. Does that make sense? So it took like 20 years it was the same for 5. It got real hot for 5 because the atmosphere is clouded. The atmosphere declouded for 5 years, but there was still so much water that wasn't going to be ice that it had to find a
Well, and yeah, it never reached
meridian.
those lower temperatures where the ice was being
Mhm.
stored at, right? So after that 1,200-year benchmark, you have a lot more water in the ocean, a lot higher sea level.
It's 400 feet actually.
It's significant
God.
sea level. Which right
So
now,
fucking crazy.
the threat of global warming and stuff, they're always talking about coastal cities disappearing and stuff like that. LA,
Yeah,
New
they're
York,
talking 100 feet.
getting wiped out, just lost to the ocean and stuff.
Yeah.
They're like literally repeating history. It's like the same story with Atlantis. Like you're losing
Yeah.
the cities to the I don't know. It feels too cyclical to be.
And a thing he talks about, which I didn't super want to get into, but is probably why portions of video like this aren't really shared. I mean, we're not even sharing it. It was kind of too boring to do, so let's give him that on the top. But the really squiggly lines at the top are real uniform. That's like 1 or 2 degrees though.
Mm-hmm.
So, or 1 to 3 degrees are all those little bitty squiggly lines above all the crazy shit. But what gets, and they go into it because Joe Rogan asks about it, but it gets construed into like a climate change discussion because he's like, these are 1 to 3 degree shifts in the climate. They're talking about 1 degree and 100 feet of glacial ice melts. But then he describes that like we've been slowly melting glaciers since then. So it's kind of hard to tell how much humans are doing. But it gets into a whole conversation that it doesn't really need to be. I mean, it just like obviously it was an ice age and then it disappeared. And there's obviously an event that caused the disappearance, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that wasn't necessarily in question if there was some event that happened. I think there is still debate on what the event was, if it was an asteroid.
No, I'm just saying this is visible physical proof. They took ice cores out of Antarctica or Greenland and they isolated the oxygen and they figured out what the degree was that period of time.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like it follows. It doesn't follow. Like that's kind of what I was getting into with the medieval warming period. That there's a line of perfection as far as temperature and the human population goes. You know, and we're seeing a 10,000 year stretch of perfect,
Relative.
but 12. Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's homogeneous, right? It all kind of levels out. But I think that's society works that way too. I think they would adapt to whatever it was. If they had to move inland and teach a new population new tricks, then
Right.
that's what they did.
Right, and they probably were to some extent, but the sea levels rose 400 feet.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never find that in civilization.
No,
First
that was
off-
one of the arguments too. They're like, there's just all this amount of land that's underwater that's been washed away, that's
Yeah.
under where we just couldn't go look for this stuff. But if you did go looking for pre-civilization stuff, like it would be buried underwater.
Yeah, and most like
What?
oceanographers that are also archaeologists or anthropologists, they're looking for shipwrecks. They're not necessarily looking for like man-made structures that have eroded in water for 2,000 years.
And a
Yeah.
shipwreck
You know?
would imply like what, 2,000 years old at the most.
No, I think the ancient Egyptians had. I think it would probably be more like 4
Okay, I mean
or 5,000 years.
2,000 years on the other
Because-
side. Yeah.
Khafra was, maybe it's Khufu. I think Khufu was built with a 140-foot boat in his burial. Ooh, let's
Golly,
let's
dude,
wrap
think
this back
about
around. Another interesting fact about Egypt: no body has ever been found in a pyramid, but most of them are attributed as burial places.
What do you mean no bodies have been found? Yes, they have.
No, they haven't. They have not pulled a body out of a pyramid.
But they found like workers' bodies that prove that it wasn't slaves that built the pyramids. It was intelligent workers that were buried
think
with
that was
the
around it.
pharaohs. No, they were inside.
Well, they died building it. I meant pharaohs.
All of that feels moot to me. Like that's not even what I want to talk about. Like I feel like that's doesn't scratch the surface of what's really happening. I do want to talk about it. I appreciate ancient Egypt and all that stuff. I'm just saying I feel like there's a bigger game going on. And that's going to be my take for the rest of these series is that there's some bigger thing going on. And you can't convince me otherwise.
It's a meme now.
It's all it's all happening. It's all a part of a plan. It's all a master plan.
I come back and I'm watching bros watching Rogan.
I know, I love that comment.
I was watching Randall Carlson on Rogan. The only other he's like into sacred geometry because of all this archaeological stuff. And I can't really watch those videos, but when he talks about like
What did you say?
look at all this sign Randall Carlson,
Sacred
this guy.
geometry?
Yeah.
Why can't you watch those videos?
Because I'm not into it. But he's like, here's scientific data that says this. I go, oh, damn, doggy.
I'm willing to propose that as a whole episode.
Sacred geometry.
Because
mean, I'll
I
do
meant
it.
to bring that up tonight, but I don't think you have any room to.
You talking Pythagorean? Or you talking something else?
That would be part of the ancient technology that think it's transferred along these cycles. 12,000 years, the ancient civilization resets, and that's one of the things they teach them, right?
That's kind of a good point. Like, do you think that they could build a pyramid without Pythagorean's theorem? Pythagorean was a Greek.
I don't think it was Pythagorean's theory. I think it was some iteration of some other knowledge they taught him. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, but Pythagorean theorem is the side of a triangle.
I don't think
They
that's
start-
necessarily even sacred geometry. I'm talking about like fractal, like stuff in nature. That is inherent in us. I'm saying
Like
it's like time,
Dodecahedrons and shit.
it's tying back into law of one shit, which I don't think we have time to get into, but it's more like metaphysical stuff. Like it's like predetermined social engineering based on like a quantum level almost.
You think shapes are quantumly predisposed to be a shape?
That is in nature. We have examples in nature of fractal stuff happening just based on DNA codes running, crystallizations and stuff like that. There's examples in nature. I think
Okay, now bring me back to a pyramid is what I'm saying.
I'm saying
I believe you there.
Some
How does this relate
source,
to being a pyramid?
some source code hundreds of thousands of years ago got ran and perverted and manipulated, and the best we could do is pyramids.
Hmm.
Source code.
I think there's some code inherent in life. You put this life system in any environment that it could exist in, and it immediately starts running the simulation and fitting into the best environments it can. Over millions and billions of years, you get humankind. And I think I'm going all the way far back as seeding planets. If you seed a planet and come back in a couple million years, you get apes that are building fires and shit.
Yeah.
But I think they come by every couple of cycles, every time something gets wiped out, and they ensure there's some basic form of knowledge getting transferred. And then they come back and pick some population up for slavery or something.
Okay.
I think it's just... So at the end of all this, that's what I meant to close on. There was another guy that they were trying to put Hancock in with, and it was some like Eastern or Chinese guy that was saying it's 2 million years old or 10 million years old, these cycles that have happened. And then he's like, no, that's batshit crazy. I don't want to get lumped in with those guys, but I'm in with those guys.
Okay. And I'm one level away from... I'm one batshit level away from you. I understand.
Okay. That's fair. I'm totally on board with taking that route, but that's my advocate. That's what I usually do.
The reason I say I'm one batshit level away is because that it can only be conjecture or assumption.
I don't think there's any way of ever knowing it. I think, again,
Does that
it's
feel like
war on drugs.
believing in
Again,
religion?
I think consciousness is the key. I think if at some point, inevitable, we're going to evolve to the point that we understood that we could manipulate matter with our minds and all X, Y, Z, blah, 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 going on along with it. But eventually, you're just going to have this unfolding story that took place over millions of years, and you're going to understand what you really are rather than just this person that's only been around for 10,000 years. That makes no sense.
I've only been around for 30 years.
You are the accumulation of legacy of a generation of ape that has transcended time over however many times. Your father, your father's father, your father's father's mother's mother, all that timeline bullshit.
Call my father's mother's a monkey.
Anyways.
I would say a lot of people don't believe that. Like,
This is episode 3, by the way. We got a lot more to talk about.
Yeah. With apes, a lot of people don't believe that we are like similar
Evolved.
to apes at all. Yeah,
Any
evolved from
person
apes,
that
and it's
says
like
that we're not part of this ecosystem, and I mean any living life form on Earth, if we're not a part of that system, they're idiots. How about
stand
that?
by that.
How about that?
So you
Rock
think
on.
we are and came from the system?
I think every living creature on this Earth comes from one source, and that's the sacred geometry source that I'm kind of talking about.
Okay. All right. We'll have to get there in another episode.
Mhm.
What does next week look like?
I don't know. I don't know if this was supposed to be a two-parter to begin with, so if you want to just carry up the conversation next week, I'm comfortable with that. Or if you want to... I know it's getting into November.
Are we starting at planet seeding or somewhere else in this discussion?
I think we just stick on ancient civilization. So I think we covered pretty much everything up to 12,000, and I'm comfortable picking up everything after 12,000.
Well, that's not ancient after that.
What's the word? What do you use after that? What comes after antiquity? Like,
Modern? And modern history starts in like 7,000
no, I'm
BC.
saying before. I'm sorry. What comes before antiquity?
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs is
Lot of-
millions of years, so you have to adjust your time
Yeah.
scales. You're talking about
And
Yeah, but
people
millions
say
of years
that
ago.
those don't even exist either.
Here's the reason I'm saying that's not a conversation. There is nothing, there's no evidence.
I'm not saying we existed with dinosaurs. Please don't that's not where I'm
No,
going.
no.
I mean,
I
we
feel
may
like
have, I don't know.
I feel like you're saying what is between 200,000 years ago and 12,000 years ago.
I'm saying there potentially could have been a spacefaring species that evolved in that time period. Realize that the Earth isn't sustainable over the course of their civilization, which could potentially be millions of years. So they're like, the Earth isn't suitable for a million-year civilization. We have to float around planet to planet, which we're learning is true.
Okay.
So they're already doing that. They're out there floating around.
How are you? Here's my whole point on all of this. How do you prove
I
any of
don't
that?
know it. There's no possible way we ever know it. I think there's questions to be asked why things are the way they are, and I'm saying There's mind
This
control
theory.
happening. I think that history is a lie, and it was because they want us not to know how long it really has been going on.
Yeah.
I think that all that is strategic and
Okay, I can follow
specific.
you. But next week, the entire thing is about that.
I feel like I could go on for another 2 hour show. Sure, yeah.
Okay.
We could talk another hour about what we're gonna do the week after. This is not anything to do with that. This is I don't know. This is why I was excited about this episode because
Because you want to get into like. Okay, so let's call it like the inevitability of man.
I wouldn't think that. I think you could say it's the broader history of mankind. Even you could just say you instead of a 10,000-year-old civilization, you're a 100,000-year-old, 200,000.
Okay, but I'm gonna look for evidence to pull up. I mean, I can sit here and postulate for 2 hours.
The whole point of this podcast was the 12,000-year mark, right? You get the emergence of these technologies that we didn't have before then. That was what we've been
Okay.
talking about, okay?
I agree.
So my assumption is there was a civilization before that time that had all of that knowledge.
Okay, how are you gonna show me that?
Because
Is
you
my
have these
question.
structures pop up without any seemingly knowledge of them before. They just pop up. So where did that knowledge come from? If not thousands of years of building up knowledge of how to do that.
Okay, so this week we showed them popping up.
Okay. Where did the information come from to build those?
Oh, okay. So you want to get into the culture of these civilizations and what they believed they came from
That might be one way to look at it.
to kind of plant that on now, if that makes sense.
That'd probably be a good starting point.
That's another alien episode.
This to me
All about
was an
aliens.
alien episode. To me, this
Or at
was
least
a war
D&D.
on drug episode. It's all the same to me. I don't know. That's kind of why I wanted to do this podcast to begin with, but it's all the same subject to me.
Okay, no, I can deep dive into that.
Yeah.
Sumerians and
aliens.
Anunnaki and
Yeah.
Well, we didn't even
there you
get to
go.
that. See, the space
and
not, the
creation
space
myths of
outer- yeah.
ancient cultures.
Yeah,
We
so
Okay.
can, we can talk more about the alien side of it, and
That might
Next
be the
week.
best way to put it, ancient culture. Because where did the culture come from? Yeah, that's good. That's good way to look at it.
there we go.
So this was ancient civilizations. Next week is ancient cultures.
Ooh.
Oh, we're gonna look heavy into some alien shit.
Yeah. Your
All right,
worst
I'm down with
nightmare in high school.
I'm down
More
with that. I just
aliens,
needed to
hell
know
yeah.
where we were going.
It's all
Someone
the
give
same.
this guy a format beforehand. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
It's hard. It's hard because they're all intertwined to me. It's evidence.
Great.
It's evidence of. We'll get into it because a lot of those have shamanic cultures. But
Yeah.
that stuff gets suppressed though, and they're
Occult. The occult of ancient cultures.
because of somebody wanted it to be that way.
Huh?
The
You lost
reason
me again.
things are legal right now, the reason cannabis, the reason psilocybin and stuff is legal, because they know that they will open the minds up, and they
Okay.
don't want that, and they know that because of prehistory stuff that happened. They've
I'm gonna
already
stop you there. I'm gonna stop you.
experimented with it.
I'm gonna stop you before you get to the prehistory stuff. You're assigning a motive you can't prove. Correct?
Yeah, sure. That's
Okay.
literally.
I just need to know where we are in the conversation.
I'm not
I'm
basing
da-
this. This is,
I'm
this
down
is
to get weird on
conjecture.
stuff.
We're in the realm of conjecture at this point. I do concede.
It is all about theories. So
But you're saying that kind of guides the way civilizations ebb and flow, where I'm kind of taking a, I guess, more sociological approach in how would people react. That's the hill I'm trying to get over. Does that make sense?
No.
I'm looking at it with Occam's razor. The most likely thing to happen is what happened. And my preconceived notion, which I can't prove to you as any more than you can prove to me what you're talking about, is that there is a sort of spontaneity. And I agree with the restart of a humanity, but I haven't thought or looked into the preconception of the restart of a humanity, or like the the manipulation of that restart. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
What a great answer. Because that always makes sense.
You can't have conspiracies on
always
stuff
makes
now
sense.
and not assume that that stuff has been going on. If you open the door that civilization is a lot longer than we think it is, then you have to say that those human-natured
Oh.
games have been going on since the dawn of man.
That's a great way to phrase it. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, you brought me for full
And
circle
I'm
on
fully
that.
conceding that it is economical motivation. It is human nature motivation, driving a lot of it, but it is humans that we're talking about.
Yeah, no, I'm like 40 to 60% devil's advocate right now. I'm just also the other percentage is me going, what?
Dude, seriously.
So I can get down with that for sure.
Let's do it. That's part 2. So that's coming next week. It is 9 o'clock. We're going to do plugs real quick. And we're going to start with Drake because he's the silent Drake.
Yeah,
Damn,
you can
dude.
find me on.
Hey, I'm going to ask one question before you do your plugs. When you're laughing, are you laughing out loud or are you going,
No, I'm just kind of chuckling. I'm not trying to like laugh into the mic while y'all are talking and shit.
no,
but I am
doggy,
laughing
it's weirder
genuinely.
that you it's
You ever
weirder that
listen
you
to talk
don't laugh
radio?
out loud.
That's literally the point of it. You're just supposed to talk over each other.
Because when you hold in the noise, you just go like this. And I'm like,
Like
is
right
his
now,
mic?
I'm giggling. I'm just giggling.
I'm like, is his
that's all
mic
it
fucking
is.
up or is he not
No, I'm
making
just-
noise?
I'm just
plugs.
trying. I'm not
Plugs, I'm
interrupting
sorry.
you, son of a bitch. Yeah, you can find me on Twitch. I'm trying to start streaming on Wednesdays mostly. The plug has been going on in the breaks and all that, but once again, it's Dark Lord at R. And you can find me on Twitter, Instagram at Inked Beats. Twitch will be like that soon. I'm in Able Delilah. You can find us on everything. We have merch. We have music. New single Flavor came out. We have a Halloween show this Saturday. Check mine or our band's social medias for all that information because it's too much to talk about. Jeremy, it's up to you now to take it from here.
You guys are way more popular than I am. I'm literally here, and I might pop up on Twitch under Molasses.
BOC Molasses. Get it right.
I do have an Instagram I don't ever post on. I do have a Twitter I never post on, but if I did ever post something, it would be there or the Discord or the Twitch. There you go.
When you do your plugs, you should just do the plugs for this show. This show has an Instagram, a Twitter. There's a TikTok we haven't posted to yet. There's a YouTube with
I have a
last week's
TikTok too.
video.
My bad. I don't know why I have a TikTok.
There's a Rumble that I haven't re-uploaded to yet. I'm pretty sure I can set it up to auto-upload, but no one gives a fuck about Rumble yet, so
Yeah, that's fair.
it's fine that it's the way it is. You can actually join this Discord, right?
Yeah. Let me do that real quick.
It's not moderated, so don't fuck it up.
It is moderated to an extent. It's the barest of minimums.
Yeah,
But
if you fuck it up, we're gonna make it all private.
I hate it. I hate feeling like it's a one-sided conversation. So I definitely want the opportunity if you guys come up with something over the week, something for next week. Obviously, this is gonna be a two-parter. So if there's something we didn't touch on this week, you want to make sure we highlight next week. Just put it in this Discord.
Yeah, or if you just see a cool article, we might make a whole episode out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a list, but
Yeah.
we'll add
Yeah,
to it.
we definitely want suggestions.
So go follow this show on everything. I actually probably use this show more than anything else because my show, The Rolling Third, every Sunday at 8 p.m. on YouTube, doesn't have any social media because I don't want to do it. So follow me there on YouTube. Follow me on Twitch,
Discord's in the chat.
Instagram.
Stupid.
Oh, wait. This show's Twitter. Take the S off the very end. It's Funny Nut Theory-O. I couldn't fix that. I'm sorry. Anyway, for me, Rolling Third on YouTube. BOC Wasabi at Twitter, Instagram. I'm pretty sure my TikTok is at Reddit. This show also has a Reddit.
I've read it too.
I think me and Drake and Jeremy follow that Reddit.
You can find us. We're here.
Yeah, it's basically everything, but that's the plug.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel.
All right, guys. Next week, 7 o'clock. We'll be better.
Ancient Aliens, episode 2.
So do. Bye, guys.
Later.
Remember how I do this.